So a few weeks ago I made a video talking about how I've recently returned to Black Desert. Since then I've had a lot of people send me messages that they've tried or want to try the game but can't quite understand how it works. Now usually I'm not one for making guides, but I'll make an exception for this game as it's extremely overwhelming as a new player. Before you even load up or install Black Desert, I strongly advise you go into this game with an open mind. This game isn't anything like World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2 or any other MMO I can think of. So the MMO knowledge you've already gotten from these games probably won't be of much use in Black Desert. The thing to bear in mind about this game is there's a lot to learn. Hopefully this guide will be able to teach you the most important stuff, but I'd advise just taking things slowly and learning each thing one at a time. So obviously the first thing you do when starting BDO is make a character. It's probably a good idea to spend some time making something you're happy with and picking a decent name, as it costs real money to change names and appearance. When it comes to class selection, I think it's best to check out the official awakening videos for each class and pick something you think's just cool. After that you load into the game, go through a very basic tutorial and will probably be left feeling confused, unfamiliar and quite overwhelmed. So first off, let's talk about the questing in Black Desert. Unlike most MMORPGs, the purpose of questing in Black Desert is not to level your character up in terms of experience. The only good way of leveling is simply from grinding mobs, which most of the time is a byproduct of questing anyway. This doesn't however mean you shouldn't quest, as the rewards they give you will help you out a hell of a lot. I'll explain more on that in a minute though. Once you've finished the initial tutorial, you'll notice NPCs with yellow boxes above their heads. These are quest givers. When you take their quest, the box over their heads will turn blue to show that the quest is in progress. The blue quest in progress box is also used for quest objectives that you need to interact with. When a quest is complete, a red box with a tick through it will appear over the head of the NPC that you need to hand the quest into. Some quests in this game aren't very well explained, however in those cases where you're stuck, I'd advise pressing the O hotkey, which brings up your quest log, reading the instructions carefully, and if that fails, Google the name of the quest. Even at level 59 I still come across quests that I need to Google help with, but most of the time they're rather self-explanatory and just require a bit of common sense. In Black Desert there's 7 different types of quests: Black Spirit quests, story quests, town quests, repeatable quests, exploration and trade quests, fishing quests, and life skill quests. By default, exploration, trade, fishing and life skill quests will be turned off. To enable them, hover your mouse over your quest log, tick the options button at the top and tick the box for the quests you're interested in. This options panel also allows you to sort your quests in order of distance and also acceptance time, which is really helpful. Finally, if you hover over your quest log again, you'll notice 4 square buttons next to the quest titles. The tick icon will hide the quest from your log, the flag icon will abandon the quest, the squiggly arrow will set an auto path to the destination, and the man icon will automatically move you to where you need to go, which is really helpful if you're stuck or bad at navigation. As a new player, I'd advise leaving the quest options as default and focusing on the Black Spirit and story quests, as they typically give you the best rewards. Whilst on the topic of rewards, let me explain why you should actually quest in this game and some of the things you can get out of it. The main thing you'll get from every quest in this game is something called contribution experience, which is indicated at the top left of your screen by a circle with 2 lines coming out of the top. This is essentially another experience bar, and when you get enough experience and level it up, you'll gain a contribution point, which for the sake of this video I'm now going to refer to as investment points, because that's what they are, you invest them in stuff. This resource is basically used to purchase buildings and connect them to towns and resource sites known as nodes, which then allows you to hire workers and send them out to that node to gather resources for you. So the more quests you complete, the more investment points you accumulate, the more workers you have going back and forth collecting stuff for you that you can either sell or use yourself with life skills. Contribution points basically increase your AFK profit potential when it comes to making money in Black Desert, as once you've set up your worker empire, all you need to do is feed them beer for what I consider free, 0 effort money. We'll get more into the specifics of how to actually use your contribution points later in this video, but another important thing you get from some town quests, but mostly Black Spirit and main story quests, is combat skill points. Combat skill points are what you use to upgrade and purchase new abilities. If you look in the top left corner underneath your XP bar, you'll see a small sword and axe icon as well as a number. This is your combat points bar. The only way to get more of these points is through quests and killing mobs. I personally made the mistake of ignoring most quests all the way to level 59 on my wizard, which resulted in me being quite restricted in what abilities I could upgrade, so I had to go back and finish those quests quite recently. To spend your combat skill points, press the K hotkey and a skill tree window will pop up. Don't worry too much about what abilities you choose to upgrade as a new player, as once you hit level 56 you'll get a free reset. At that point you should then look up a guide on what's best. The final resource that I want to talk to you about is energy. This is indicated by a flexing muscle icon underneath your combat skill points. You gain energy points by obtaining knowledge of NPCs, monsters, locations, life skill recipes, and story. Energy is mostly used for the gathering skill, as well as progressing through certain quests, having conversations with some NPCs, and a few other things. As a new player, this isn't something you should worry about, as you'll passively increase your energy by questing and killing things anyway. The one thing I will advise you to do, however, is talk and interact with every grey question mark you see on the minimap, as this indicates a person or object you can gain knowledge from. Something a lot of players, including myself, do is create as many alt characters as the game will allow to use purely for energy, as each character's energy is independent, so if you spend 100 energy on character A, it wouldn't affect the amount of energy that character B has. As a new player, there's two elements of the UI that I want to draw your attention to that will help you out so much. So in the top right next to your minimap, you're going to see a magnifying glass icon. When clicking on it, you'll see a list of all the different types of NPCs. So if, for example, you're lost and want to find the nearest storage keeper, click the storage keeper icon and the game will auto-path you to the nearest one, no matter where you are. To the left of the NPC icon, there's also a guide button. If you click this, an in-game video will play and teach you the basics of the game in case you forgot. Another thing I see new players ask about all the time is how to turn off the notification spam that you'll see at the top of your screen from the marketplace by default. To do this, press escape, go to settings and then the game tab, and scroll down to turn off the system notifications. You can then choose to turn off the constant spam. The final thing I recommend turning off is the annoying action combo guide that appears by default. To do this, press escape, go to Edit UI and untick the action combo guide box by clicking the eye icon. There's a bunch of other UI functions that you can also play around with here too. Something that might confuse new players and be hard to get used to is the combat and gearing in Black Desert. When it comes to the combat, you should not hotkey all of your abilities to your hotbar, as many of them will do reduced damage and be less effective than if you used the combo controls for that ability. A combo control, for example, being shift right click, F and W, S and E, and many more. You can see the combo controls for different abilities by pressing K, bringing up the skill window, and hovering your mouse over your abilities. There are, however, some abilities that can only be used if you hotkey them. Generally, you want every ability that can't be activated with a combo control on your hotbar. Gearing in Black Desert is kind of weird and hard to explain, but it's certainly a lot different to what you're used to in other MMOs. Instead of constantly getting new pieces of gear from quests, dungeons and raids, you'll instead get gear at around level 20 that you probably won't change until level 50. Instead, you'll just upgrade it with things called Blackstones. So let's say, for example, at level 20 you got an Aegirian chest piece. You'd then probably upgrade that gear to +5 until you hit level 50, when you'd then switch it out for a Granil chest, which you'd then enchant to +17 or 18, then only swap it out for the best in slot boss armor, which you'd upgrade as much as possible. Black Desert gearing isn't so much about the gear itself, but how high it's upgraded. From 1 to 60 you might only use 2 or 3 different types of armor. The downside of this system is there's not much visual progression as you get stronger, and the upside is that upgrades feel really important when you do get them. When it comes to gearing as a new player, my advice would be to try and buy the already upgraded gear off the marketplace once you hit around level 50 rather than upgrading it yourself. To get you to level 50, use a set of Aegirian armor and upgrade each piece to +5, as there's no chance of failure when getting +5 on armor. For a weapon and offhand, you can go to +7 before there's a chance of failure. For accessories, use a full set of Jarret gear that you should get as a new player reward. After that, when you can afford it, buy a full set of +15 or Pry, Granil skill armor set and a better weapon and offhand. After that, just keep continuing to make small upgrades when you can afford it. To actually upgrade your gear yourself, you need to call the Black Spirit, click the enhancement button, then add the gear you want to enhance as well as armor or weapon black stones to the upgrade window. Then just click enhance, and if you're upgrading past +5 or 7, pray to the RNG gods. If you fail the upgrade, you get something known as a fail stack, which is essentially bad luck protection in that the higher this value is, the more likely you'll succeed the enhancement next time. Obviously, the higher you're trying to enhance the gear, the less likely it'll upgrade. Past +16, gear upgrading becomes especially tedious as you need concentrated black stones instead of normal ones which are harder to come by. Failing an enhancement will also decrease the level of that piece of gear by 1. Another tedious thing about gear upgrading is that failing an upgrade will decrease that item's maximum durability by 5 each time. Eventually, you're going to get to the point where you need to recover that item's maximum durability. To do this, you need multiple non-upgraded versions of the item you're trying to recover. Take it to a blacksmith and click recover maximum durability. The duplicates will then be consumed and the durability will be recovered. Due to the way the RNG upgrade system works, many people create alt characters to build fail stacks on cheap gear when going for more expensive upgrades, as each of your characters has their own independent set of fail stacks. I don't want to go into more detail on this though, as I want to keep this a beginner guide, but it basically involves a lot of character hopping and attempts to fail upgrades to increase the chance on an item that you actually want to upgrade. If the whole item upgrade RNG system sounds like complete aids to you though, then you can always do what I mostly do, which is buy the best possible gear I can for pure cash on the marketplace. It may not be as exciting, but it'll sure stop you from punching a hole in your monitor when you fail. So as I mentioned earlier, contribution points, or as I like to think of them, investment points, are a resource you gain from questing that allows you to set up a business empire and essentially get free money from your workers. Let's talk about how to set that up. The first thing you're going to want to do is find a work supervisor in the town you want to hire workers in. You can find them by using the magnifying glass and click worker. From here you have two options: try to buy a worker from another player by clicking the worker exchange button, or get a fresh worker by clicking contract workers, which is the one I'd recommend as a new player. Every time you view a new worker, it's going to cost you 5 energy, and the quality of that worker will be totally RNG. Worker quality is indicated by the colour of the text and grade the worker is given. From lowest to highest, it's grey, green, blue, yellow and orange. I personally only hire workers that are at least blue skilled quality, but if you're just starting out and have a few energy, hiring green workers is totally fine. Other than worker quality, there's 3 different races of worker that each have their own pros and cons. Goblins work fast but run out of energy quickly. Pick these guys if you're going to be around to feed them every few hours. Giants have a lot of energy and gather much more things at a time but take longer per run. Pick these if you're not at your computer too much. And humans are the middle ground between goblins and giants, with an increase on their luck skill too. There's no point being too fussy on your workers when starting out though, as you mostly just want to get things up and running. In each town by default you can hire 1 worker without providing them a place to live. If you want to hire more than 1 worker in a town, you need to invest some contribution points into lodging. To do this, press the M key to bring up the map. Click on the town you want lodging in, go to the top right of the screen, click the middle drop down menu and click lodging. Arrows will then appear and point to all the buildings that can be used for lodging. If you scroll in further, you'll notice that a lot of the buildings will be greyed out. This is because these buildings are in a chain where you need to invest in the previous building first. Buildings that are first in the chain show up as blue. So click the blue building and you'll notice a window pops up that shows all the things the building can be used for. Click lodging, then purchase lodging. After about a minute or so, you'll own that building and be able to hire more workers. So now that you've got some workers, it's time to put them to work. To do this, you need to discover nodes which are indicated on the map by a strange arrow icon. Go to the node manager at that node and click node management. In the top left, you're going to see an option to invest contribution. Click that, then look at what resources are a part of that node. For Bartelli Farm in Velia, for example, it produces chicken meat and potatoes. Click on the potato icon and invest another contribution point into it. You're then going to get a pop-up appear showing a list of your workers. Select the worker you want to use, move your mouse over to the right of the panel, click the change button and enter the highest value it allows, followed by the start work option. And there it is, you've sent a worker out to gather for you. Just as a side note, one cool little thing that I like about this game is that you can actually see your workers out in the world. Just a nice bit of attention to detail. Eventually though, you're going to reach the point where your workers will run out of energy, so you'll need to refill it with beer, which is the only thing you ever need to give a worker. They don't require a salary, some not even a place to live, just beer. Sad life, isn't it? There's two ways of getting beer in this game, either make it yourself or buy it from the marketplace. I don't want to get too in depth on how to make beer, but in short, buy a residence in a town, buy a cooking utensil from a general goods vendor, place it in your house, buy a lot of mineral water, sugar and leavening agent from an innkeeper, and either gather yourself or have your workers collect any form of starch, so potato, barley, wheat, corn, any of that will do. It takes 5 starch, 1 sugar, 6 mineral water and 2 leavening agents to make a single batch of beer. This will also level up your cooking skill. Once you have beer, click on the pickaxe icon in the top left of your screen to bring up a list of your workers. Then click the recover all option followed by the repeat all option, which will recover all of your workers' energy and repeat the last task you've given to them. Now, as a new player, I remember being confused as hell about the whole worker and node system. I spent hours watching really bad guides to figure it out, but once you've done it once or twice, it's a very simple system. Don't be discouraged by it, it's very logical stuff that will make complete sense over time. Before we move on to life skills and money making, there's just a few things I want to mention. There's no way to take a worker that you've hired from one town and move them to another. You can send them to another town to do work, but they'll run back and forth from their hometown, which will increase their work time. To do this, you must have the nodes in between the towns connected. Once you've invested your contribution points in something, you can get them back at any time by clicking contribution withdrawal. So there's no reason not to have all of your points investing, as not doing so is actually a waste. Workers gain levels the more you use them. Every 10 levels you can send them for a promotion test to rank up to the next tier. It's RNG whether or not they pass though. Each town in Black Desert has its own independent storage. For example, you can't use the storage in Valencia and have access to your storage in Hydel. You can, however, transport goods between towns by clicking the transport option and paying a fee for the service. When you equip gear in Black Desert, it does not become soulbound like in other MMOs, and gear has no level requirements, which means if you decide to re-roll, you can easily transfer your stuff over to a fresh alt. Making alt characters and leveling them up is actually incentivized in Black Desert through the family fame system. The more high level characters you have, the higher your family score will be. The benefits of high family fame is that you get daily money given to you by post every day based on that score. Every day in Black Desert you will receive daily login rewards. To claim these, press escape, click attendance rewards and right click on the item you want to claim for it to appear in your inventory. As a new player you'll have 2 tabs of rewards, one for being new to the game and another for being a loyal player. Make sure to claim them every single day, as towards the end of the month you get millions of gold's worth of stuff just for logging in. So now let's talk about one of the biggest parts of this game, the professions, which in Black Desert are referred to as life skills. There's currently 10 different life skills in the game: gathering, processing, cooking, alchemy, horse training, fishing, hunting, trading, farming and sailing. Gathering, as you'd imagine, basically involves you going around and chopping trees, mining rocks and harvesting vegetables. It can be really good money, but it's a lot of effort compared to other types of income. One great AFK method of gathering and a good way to make easy money as a new player though, is by going to the material vendor, buying a few hundred empty bottles and filling them up with river water, which you can then sell on the marketplace for a nice profit. This, as well as digging in the desert, is how I've recently started leveling my gathering because I'm quite lazy and like to AFK. Processing basically involves you taking things like logs, ore and flax and processing it into more expensive resources such as plywood, bars and fabrics, which you can then either use or sell. I make a lot of money this way myself and I enjoy it because it's low effort and semi-AFK. Cooking is a skill we've kinda touched on earlier in this guide. There's good money to be made here, and it's also a great way to get contribution points. Personally, I've got to Artisan 5 purely from making beer, and I like cooking because it's semi-AFK. Alchemy is very similar to cooking but requires different ingredients. It's also a nice way to get contribution points, and it's also decent AFK money. Horse training is something you level up every time your own horse gains a level. The higher your training level, the faster your horses level up. You can make money through horse training, and it is mostly AFK work, but it's certainly not as effective as other life skills in terms of income. Fishing is the life skill that I first invested a lot of time into as a new player. It's very reliable, easy money that can be leveled actively or AFK. As a new player, you could easily make a few million silver by just leaving your PC on overnight fishing and selling ancient relic shards that you'll get on the marketplace. I highly recommend fishing for new players. Hunting is a skill that I haven't really done a whole lot of myself. It seems like something you'd do more for fun than anything, but there is money to be made from it though if you go out to sea and hunt whales, for example, which drop an expensive earring. Trading is a life skill that basically involves you getting a merchant wagon, buying items from trade managers, taking those items to another town and selling them on for a profit. For this to work though, you need to have the nodes in between the towns connected. It's a life skill that takes a damn long time to level up, but once you reach Master 2, you'll be set for money for the foreseeable future. I used to trade a lot on my old character as it's a semi-AFK skill that I can do whilst editing videos, but my current setup for nodes doesn't accommodate for me to connect all the towns together, so it's kind of on the back burner for me at the moment. Farming is pretty much what you'd expect it to be. You spend contribution points to buy a fence, place that fence in the world, buy seeds, plant them, and then come back and harvest your crops when they're fully grown. Wait too long and your crops will wither, and harvest too early and you won't get the maximum yield for that crop. You can make some really good money farming, but I personally don't like keeping track of the growth times. Sailing is a new skill added to the game with the Margoria expansion. I'm going to be honest and say that I have no idea what the benefits of this are, and it's certainly not relevant for new players as getting a good sailing boat takes a ton of time and resources, so just don't worry about this one yet. When it comes to the life skills in Black Desert, I think it's a really good idea to try a few different ones and try and find something you enjoy. A bit of advice would be to not be a jack of all trades and attempt to really master at least one life skill for reliable money. Without a doubt though, the best way to make as much cold hard cash in as little time as possible is from grinding monsters and selling their item drops. As you get better gear, the places you can grind at will improve in terms of money per hour, and you'll also be leveling up from it too. I make my money from many different sources. I usually grind for 1 or 2 hours per day. I go to as many world bosses as I can in hopes of a lucky drop to sell. I semi-AFK gather in the desert. I join gatekeeper groups for an easy 20 mil per hour. I buy things from the night vendor and sell them on for a profit on the marketplace. I buy cheap gems on the market, process them into blackstone powder and then sell them back to the marketplace. I sell to the Imperial Alchemy trader every day, and I've set up my node empire in a way that none of my towns are connected, but instead I'm focused on making my workers gather as much resources as possible for me to process and then sell on the marketplace. Currently I've got 69 workers, and I think in terms of raw value, they probably gather around 10 to 15 million worth of resources for me per day. Some of that I just directly sell, other stuff I process. Making money in Black Desert is really important though. The phrase money is power couldn't be more true than in this game. It's what you use to upgrade and get the best gear. There's a ton of different ways to get money, you just need to find what works best for you. Once you've learned the ropes of the game and you've got a good amount of contribution points under your belt, I'd recommend just spending a night planning out what you want to do. It's probably a good idea I explained the stats window for you guys, as looking at it initially can be a bit overwhelming. If you bring up the stats window by pressing P, you'll get a bunch of information about your character. The enhancement section isn't something you should worry about for now, but you can basically get things like attack speed, crit chance, luck and movement speed to a maximum level of 5. This is achieved by a combination of the gear you've got equipped and the gems you've put in that gear. To the right of that, there's a section that says training with 3 separate subsections: breath, strength and health. To level up your breath, you basically just run places. This is something that'll just passively level up from playing the game, so don't worry about it too much. Leveling up your strength will increase your weight capacity. To level this up, speak to a trade manager, buy any trade item and have it in your inventory. A backpack will appear on your character, then simply open the map in a safe zone and set an auto loop to walk up and down AFK training your strength. Your health levels up every time you eat food. Potions and elixirs do not count as food. You'll either need to make the food yourself or buy it from the marketplace. You can eat one piece of food every 30 minutes, so make sure you're eating it on cooldown to level this stat up. Underneath the training window, you have a little section that gives you information about resistances. This is mostly useful in PvP, so just don't worry about this for now. At the bottom of the information window, you can see your XP bar for each of the professions, as well as a ranking button to see how you compare against other players. And at the top right of the window, you can see how much karma you have. As a new player, you don't need to worry about this, but karma is something you lose when you kill another player in PvP that your guild isn't at war with. To get karma back, you need to grind mobs. The final thing I think you're probably going to want to know as a new player is where you should level up and what mobs you should be grinding. Luckily, this information is for the most part now displayed on the in-game map. Bring up the map by pressing M and look around. You'll see there's a lot of areas that say the name of a mob as well as a recommended level range. From 1 to 50 you should follow the in-game recommendations. Past that, where you level will depend on your gear and how much attack power and defense power you have. For a rough guide, I'm going to link in the description of this video a website called somethinglovely.net. This is a great resource that shows you the location and recommended gear levels for monsters that you can grind on. If you use the filters, it can also show the locations of dungeons, world bosses, scroll bosses, nodes, and horse taming locations. I think most people that play Black Desert have this website bookmarked. When grinding mobs for levels though, it's two different things just being able to kill monsters and being able to grind them efficiently. You want to be at places that are efficient, so whilst you can probably go into Valencia at level 55 and kill a few mobs, it's not going to be too efficient in terms of XP in comparison to a lower level spot. But I think we're at the point where it's time to wrap this video up though. I hope your brain hasn't melted from information overload. Remember to take everything in this game slowly and come back to this video if you've forgotten something. We've covered a lot of things and I genuinely hope I've managed to help some of you. Black Desert is confusing as hell for new players, but it's also a unique MMORPG that very much goes about its own thing. If you have the patience to learn how the game works and you're sick of the standard MMO formula, I think you'll really enjoy this game, as it certainly has the ability to suck you into another world, and it has so many systems and features that even I still learn new things about it every single day. If you're new to the game, just take it slow, be patient and enjoy the ride, but most importantly look for a guild to join, as other players will be your best resource for information, and the game can feel a bit lonely without other people to enjoy it with. I really appreciate it if you've made it this far into the video though, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave it in a comment below and hopefully someone will help. Good luck to all you new guys joining the game. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you again really soon.